Welcome to the Cowboy Office Show, where you'll experience expert analysis and epic discussion on key pillars of the equine industry, including sports, business, hobby, and the horse lifestyle. Your co-hosts are Jody Brainerd and Brian Dykert, industry veterans with over 120 years combined living the cowboy lifestyle. The Cowboy Office Show will help you get involved, ask more questions, and create change. We'll keep riding for you as together we learn from the ride already ridden, learn to listen better to our horse, and make our industry better for all. Each weekly episode will take a ride around the industry in less time than you can load the truck and trailer. Drop your email at cowboyoffice.com to receive weekly updates and never miss an episode. Saddle up as we ride into today's show.
Hello, Horse World. Just like Oliver Anthony's new hit song that everybody's raving about, Richmond, North of Richmond, building on a foundation of basics has a lot of value. Nope, we are not going to talk about singing and songwriting. We have with us today the owners and operators of the North American Reining Stakes. Welcome to the Cowboy Office. I'm Brian.
And I'm Jody. Welcome. Today we're going to explore a key reining horse breeders program. It started at a local level. It's grown into a national program. The Derby competition of this program is this week inside the new 100X event in Tulsa, and I know if anything can top the Run for a Million that just got over with yesterday, it's going to be this 100X show in Tulsa. It's going to be awesome. Be the first to know. Ride with us by going to cowboyoffice.com. Put your email in. We're going to do a little guest introduction, and it is our pleasure because we have two gentlemen today that I'm way anxious to talk to. Both of them are non-pro competitors. You know, they're owners and business operators in a leading North Breeders Program, National Breeders Program, North American Reining Stakes. They offer the Derby and Futurity every year, and great purses for the competitors and owner is the goal. I'd like to welcome Travis Pufpaff from Western New York, professionally a history teacher in Western New York and growing up through the youth ranks, now a non-pro competitor. And David, before I get to you, I'm just going to grind on Brian a little bit. You know, he writes these great scripts, and you know, he directs the traffic flow of these programs so well. But when you say Western New York, you know, to an Okie, that's kind of an oxymoron, right? Because I mean, New York is not Western, right? But anyway, we'd like to welcome you and David McGee from North Carolina, professionally a business owner and operator in Central North Carolina, as well as a longtime breeder and non-pro competitor. And gentlemen, it is our pleasure to have you. Welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
We look forward to it.
I got to jump in just a touch because the New York thing, if you don't grow up and live in New York, you don't get it. So there is a western part to this state, so that's just the way it is.
I thought like it was only the city for a long time. I didn't know there was any place else in New York.
Yeah,
that's what everybody thought. So lo and behold, there's lots of horses, lots of farms, lots of rural ag stuff in the world of New York, and that's everybody misses it. Western New York's a long way away. So other end of the state. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the platform you use. We do this show for you. We're going to jump right into it. David, Travis, thank you very much for being here. This is really exciting. I want to talk about the North American Reining Stakes. You guys, you offer a Derby and a Futurity. It's a breeders program. You're now offering the Derby. It's going to be this year right now. We're less than a week away from the move-in and start to the new 100X event that's going to be in Tulsa. Your Derby is inside it. And then your Futurity is going to be in November in Ohio. So we'll talk about that as well. But you guys are definitely doing things different. So I give you a lot of kudos for that. And tell us about the program. When did it start? And where are you going?
2015 was the first year that we started. We started as a very small Futurity, as Jody alluded to earlier, that it was a local program. I think our first year we paid out $1,500. And I actually am the founder of it. So when I founded it and started it, it was to do things differently. It was to offer additional options to breeders. Because in my areas, I mean, Brian, you're from our area. There are horse farms, but I started to see a downward trend, and I was just getting into the breeding myself. So I wanted to do something that would kind of entice people in the area, and then eventually now in the country, to continue to push through with their breeding programs and to continue to buy into programs and set that purse aside and kind of all put a little skin in the game, and we could all do it together and build a really great program. So that's how it started, and it caught on like fire. Every year it grew. I think our growth rate was like 30 to 40% every year, in terms of participation, in terms of added money. And then just recently, I think we were up 86% on enrollments last year from our previous year. So it was a substantial growth last year. And really, it's just the industry buying in and trusting and having faith in what we're doing, what we're building.
Those numbers are incredible. I mean, that's just like, they are incredible. So anyway, Brian, go ahead.
Nobody sees numbers like that right now. So
Exactly.
Outstanding. Yeah.
So that's way good. Well, the North American Reining Stakes started at the local level. We know that in Western New York. It's now a national program about us. Okay, so how exactly did you go from that small venue to where you're going to be in Tulsa now?
Honestly, it was COVID.
It really was. It was COVID.
Yeah.
Was it really?
So we were.
COVID. I didn't even know Travis.
No.
I'd never even heard of Travis. Didn't meet. I hadn't heard of him. Never met him. I guess I met you in Virginia in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
New York shut everything down, and we were already kind of starting to explore bigger facilities that gave us more options, because we were kind of maxing out where we were. And then we're also, we were taking in enrollments from other parts of the country, and people were kind of like, they were like asking us those questions, would you consider more central move? Would you consider growing? And so we were looking at all that. Then COVID hit, and we were really looking at options. And David had a show going down in the Mid-Atlantic, and we kind of just teamed up because they had a little looser restrictions with allowing competitors to come and show and masks and all that whole thing. So we moved down there, and that's when we started to really catch on, because we hit a more central location, and our original goals of supporting breeders in the country really started to come to realization, and that's when it really took on big time.
Outstanding. So when you say, because David, you were involved with the Southeastern group in North Carolina, right? So that's what you're talking about. So, right?
Yeah. Well, it was actually Virginia at the time.
Oh, that's right.
We started maybe, it's been 15 years ago with the Virginia Reining Horse Association. A fellow named John Bates, who U.S. Army guy, and me and him just got along. And I said, hey, I want to do a nice futurity on the East Coast because we always have to drive. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of grew and grew and grew over a few years, and we just raised money and sponsored it. And then, like Travis said, when COVID came along and he was looking at home, and we just happened to be there, and so we really didn't have much of a plan. It just happened.
Right. Well, there's good news to the COVID.
Right? And, and sometimes
80% growth to a breeders program, all due to COVID. Can't be all that
right?
bad. Yeah.
And you guys are also horsemen, so that off-the-cuff stuff happens, and that's how you have to live your life sometimes if you ride a horse, right? And in this situation, you took advantage of it, and that's a great story, and I'm going to be repeating it too. That's awesome.
And Jody, honestly, it's between Dave and myself, it's what we believe in is the transparency, always improving and always growing. So it was real easy to jump on that opportunity, because that's what we always keep in our mind. When we have an opportunity to better support the people that support us, we're going to make that move. And we're going to support them and make sure that we're doing the best we can for the breeders in this country. So that was an easy, it went really smooth.
Outstanding.
Yeah. No, and Brian, go ahead. I'm going to get to the next question here in a second, but it's kind of already been answered. So if you have something to say, go.
No, just on the same. Well, the growth is phenomenal, and okay, so those steps, but then now you're taking a whole nother big step, because and correct me if I'm wrong, but because I saw on the schedule your Derby right now that'll be at the 100X, you actually are running it over 2 days. Is that not correct?
Yeah. So and that was based. Cheryl Cody is guiding that 100X group down there. Mm-hmm. And it's a really great group, with great leadership, growth mindset, very open and accepting and willing to work and see things differently. They looked that was kind of Cheryl's call. She's running the non-pro 2 days because of the numbers
Right.
that they project it. Yeah. They thought
So
that'd
will
be
you
it.
do so is it a one go, your score, and it just, you're not running a finals, right?
No, this year is a one go option. There's a lot going on in that show. A lot of great things, but it's there's not a whole lot of, it's a long show already, and there's not a whole lot of space to fit. You know, I always tell David this. My dad is saying it's fitting 10 pounds of shit in a 5-pound bag, right? It's just, it's a lot going on. You know, it's a great thing, and it's a lot of great programs, and it's just, but I think, you know, that group is willing to grow and learn, and they're going to do that, but they're going to put on a great show, and it's going to work, and it's, so no finals this year, but it's one go and one run, and that's what you're going to get.
Do you see that in the near future with the amount of entries that are involved in your program, where a qualifying go for the Derby? I'm talking about just your Derby right now, because that's based on the schedule that I saw. So do you see that?
I'm going to say that we're always open to it, right? It's if that is what is presented to us, and that's what we need to do to kind of sort it out, and it's an appropriate growth, right? We're all for growing, but you don't want to make a step and make a move too premature and not have it work out. So if the program's ready, the people hosting us are ready, and the numbers support it, we'll definitely consider that.
But with now having the Derby in the 100X event and venue in August, and then your futurity is going to be in November, which I think is phenomenal, because that puts it in between the Congress and the Reining futurity, right? And so, and you won't know numbers yet for your 3-year-olds, right?
No, we don't. I mean, if I were to look, I know how many horses are enrolled right now. I think there's almost like 350, 360 3-year-olds enrolled in the program right now. So it just depends who shows up. And it's a good day. It's between, Brian, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's you know, it's, people are going to pick and choose where they go. There's a lot of programs and a lot of futurities going on.
I know, and I see that as a good thing. Everybody's got a different view on that, but I see that as a great thing. Do you have a feel of how many horses enrolled in the program? So the point is, if you got 300 3-year-olds, do you normally see 30 to 40% of those show up?
I guess I never actually ran those numbers. I don't know. I'd have to look and know for certain. But I do know that there's a lot of 3-year-olds that will be enrolling at the event, kind of the late enrollment deal that we offer. But I don't know. I'd be lying if I guessed. I couldn't even have to sit down and really look.
Well, guess what? That'll give us good stuff to come back with, because growth, competition, serving the industry. David and I have had a number of industry conversations, and the point of having a horse event that is serving the kind of the core, the base of our exhibitor industry, and what we just all experienced, because what Run for the Million is doing is making the sport also spectator friendly. I think that opens some doors for us as an industry to really kind of get creative. So that's the reason I bring it up. So that's all.
Well, guys, Travis and David too. The one thing that I'm going to tell you from a guy who's done this a really, really long time, like Brian has, that the thing that I'm most excited to hear is that you guys are waiting for the industry to tell you the direction that you're going to go. In other words, you're not just making the decision, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's like you're waiting until somebody says, hey, look, this is what's going to be best for us. And I think that's, that's incredibly good stuff from a guy who made a living doing this for a really long time. Secondly, Brian, if we'd have had this available to us, and this is not a knock on NRHA, believe me, because that futurity and that association made me live in. So, but I could potentially see myself, if this would have been available to me 25 years ago, I would have taken 3-year-olds. I'd have gone to your futurity, maybe 2 or 3 other futurities, and I'd have stayed away from Oklahoma City on a certain group of horses, because I wouldn't have had to go there and beat my brains out against that group. I could be more selective. So I think that's incredible. It's really, really good stuff. So
there's a lot of money in these pre-futurities.
Oh, for sure. And, clients are happier, and, everybody can be happier with that. So from a number standpoint, That's up to me as an individual to decide where my client's best interests are, my horse's best interests are. So anyway, you guys are, kudos to you. Like Brian said, it's awesome. Good,
Yeah.
Great work.
Yeah.
Well, it's troubling for us at times because I'm coming from the business world. I like to have a plan and then go execute that plan.
Right.
And this doesn't seem to work that way. I don't want to say we just react because we create things, right, Travis? We make things up and try to do them, but it seems like they always take a different turn once we get started.
Well, I agree. Go ahead,
You're handling the adjustment really, really well, and like I said, from a business standpoint, this, you guys know, you've shown them, there's nothing more competitive than this business, and especially in horse shows and management and breeders programs, it's off the charts as to what people are throwing into this business now. So I think that some of the decisions that you're being able to make off the cuff are positive as heck. I mean, I was going to say. Okay, excuse me. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we are working off the cuff, but we have standards and we have a vision. We have a mission statement that we like to stick to. So even though we are looking at where the industry steers us, we're doing that because instead of taking a leap of faith, for instance, and making a move that was too premature, we'd be jeopardizing, I'm going to say our program, but it's everyone's program. That's what's in the back of our heads. So if we make a move that's too soon and it strays from our vision, it strays from keeping things affordable, keeping everyone having a little skin in the game, keeping, having our transparency. If we make a move that jeopardizes the program, that is jeopardizing everyone's investment and everyone's belief in what we've built over these past years. So yes, we do respond to the industry, but it's through a lens, and it's through we have bumpers up that kind of guide us along the way to make sure that we're doing what we know is best and what we believe to be best for the industry.
Outstanding. Well, let's talk for a touch, and I hear you on all of those fronts. The purses, because it's a breeders program, and so the purses are basically built off the breeders that have put into your program, and we're seeing a lot of competition in the breeders programs in our sport. That's true. And this is my view, in my opinion, more is better because when there are choices, then events get better because they want to service their consumers better, which puts us back to David's business planning, and that's all fundamentally true. But my bigger question gets to be, it's the sustainability. Everybody in the breeding business is fundamentally driven by the same thing. They want to raise good horses, sell them. They got to pay for all the capital and overhead and everything. The breeding business is probably a core piece of business commerce that is true across the entire industry. And then my question comes in to be the sustainability of that, because if we don't have more breeders breeding horses, if more horses aren't being bred, that becomes a very finite kind of pool. And now stallion owners in particular, and we'll get to your mare program in a minute, but stallion owners and foal owners can only nominate to so many programs, and so they got to pick and choose there too. So talk about what you see. You said you're seeing 80% growth year over year just in the last 2 years. That's phenomenal. So Phil, is that because you're reaching on I don't want to fill in the answer because I don't know, but I'm curious on that. And the real question is about the competitive nature of breeding programs and how sustainable that is for our sport in the stock horse stuff, the reining stuff, now and going forward.
That's a big question. So
Glad
I'm going
you're
to
answering that one, Travis.
You're going to jump in, David. So going back to 2015, Brian, when we started this, when it was, things were falling apart, right? Futurities were going down under, like in New York and PA and areas. So that's why I wanted to start it up, to give live small breeders a chance. And when I started it, people started keeping their mares and breeding them. And I start to see people that never bred before start to breed their mares, develop their programs, and it was creating kind of a little bit of a group up here of people talking and communicating and planning and, you know, making decisions together. And that's on a real small scale. So when we are now a national level, and I'm in communication with, it's very personal. David and I are, and David's wife, Gina, are very involved in every aspect of this. So when we have those conversations with breeders, they're excited. You know, they're excited that we keep our costs lower. They're excited that everyone's got a little skin in the game. They feel like they can access something big and national at their level, and it gives them a chance, right? And I'm speaking to myself too, right? We breed 4 or 5 mares a year, and you know, once in a while I'll get one that I'll be excited to go down and bring down to the big futurity, but mostly they're not the level 4 horse that, you know, so I can access this program for an affordable rate, and I could buy into something that's continuously growing, that's going to be there, and that I could shoot for, and I could play in the big times, but at a really affordable rate, and I could have fun doing it. You know, we're not pricing people out. We're very true to what we do. It's very personal, and it's here. You know, it's here to stay, and I think people are buying into it. You know, we're lucky and blessed. You know, I honestly can't explain other than we just stay true to ourselves. We stay true to our program, and we continue to make the growth together, and as a team, and people are buying into it, and I can't explain why, honestly, completely, other than people are just buying in. And we're blessed that it's happening.
Yep.
David, jump in.
Well, I mean, the goal we always talk about on the phone over and over and over, me and Travis are working on this thing, is we want to keep it affordable. We want a platform that everybody can play on. But we want it big enough that, you know, the level 4 guys show up and make it an event, as you described to me all the time, Brian. So that's kind of what our goal is to do all of those things in a way that kind of covers the whole country. And we've been kind of struggling, you know, to figure that out, and it looks like we've landed in a pretty good place recently.
Thank you, Kobe.
Well, the numbers certainly tell you that you've landed in a great place. I mean, they don't ever lie. It's Brian and I talk about that all the time, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here, because but you know, when you say the small start, I think part of the reason that people are buying into what you're talking about, Travis and David, are that you haven't forgot small. You know what I mean? And looking at the trends of today, and Brian and I have talked about this on the shows many, many times, and everybody has a chance to decide what they want to do with their whole life. And my program a long time ago was, and I'd had the 40 stall barn, and I did all that stuff. And, you know, recently in the last 25 years, I went to 15 stalls, and it was about non-pro riders. And, you know, I didn't care about me. I'd still find one every 2 or 3 years that could carry me, but they were built for non-pro riders like you guys. That's what the whole program was based like. And I took my barn, we went, and don't get me wrong, I had some clients that could have bought anything I'd asked them to. I didn't ask them to do that. I just said, we're going to have fun because this is what you want to do. I mean, they were all middle-aged people. They were people that could afford to do what they wanted to do. And we looked and went to fun horse shows and had a blast. And we'd go to the futurity because it's 40 minutes away from me, right? And we'd go show but that was the one kind of a big pain in the neck show for everybody, because it's, you know, it's so busy and everything. And that whole trend today is like that now, right? And I said, you know, I'm pretty glad that I'm kind of retired now, because I'd sure hate to haul 15 head of horses to these big events now, because my gosh, you know, talking about fitting all that into a 5-pound bag, right? Or what? I mean, it's like, how are you going to do it? I mean, it's a chore. And I think that you guys have not lost sight of the fact that for some people this can still be affordable, and I think that you're going to find ways that, I don't know how, if it's still continue in some small shows in some other areas and then have a big one somewhere. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I do know that I believe in what you're doing, and you're not going to forget about bringing new people into this, and they don't have to spend however much money to start. So we talk about that more, Jody, than you would ever imagine. Trying to make it where it's a good platform for everybody, top to bottom, and I think we're doing okay with that.
You know, it could be, there's always things me and Travis wish we'd have done different, but, you know, one thing that helps is we didn't set it out to make it a profit center. So as long as Gina says we've got money to keep putting in there, we're not upside down, we feel pretty good about ourselves. And, and she keeps very close tabs on all of those things that the program requires, because me and Travis could potentially get off center without a little doubt.
I get it, right?
That's your
Potentially.
accountant. That's your accountant and your wife, correct?
Yeah. And believe me, when your wife is your accountant, they don't talk to you as friendly as your other accountant might, right?
They'll use two hands instead of one when they pull on the bridle, won't they?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those, what do you call those bits?
The correction bits?
Yeah, that's it, the correction.
The correction,
With a twisted wire, I'm getting corrected quite often.
Good for you.
Yeah, we all get that, right? I mean, we all been there. I get it. Oh my!
And the good programs have those kinds of good people, and I think all of that is great, and it's obvious because you're 8 years old with this program. You're growing pretty fast. I think hearing you guys talk about, you know, what the core is and what's really important, which is keeping costs down, keep it affordable, create a platform that can let everybody play. I think that's phenomenal. So God bless you. I want you to talk about the Mare program because, again, you're doing stuff different, which that's the big theme, and good for you. And that's what Jody and I are trying to do with this last chapter in our life is a few things a little bit different for the industry. But I want you to talk about the mare power because I always thought personally that the mares got left behind just a touch in the whole breeding concept, and there's no new news about the mare power. Without a doubt, you know, the mare's got a lot of dominance in the quality of those offspring, but now when you put it into an organization, so talk about your mare power program. Give us a little bit of the details. Tell us, because the first one we're going to see is in 2 weeks, right?
Yep. Yeah. This is something that David and I have been talking about for a couple of years now, wanting to do something like this, believing that there was a need in the industry. And along with our vision and our mission to support the industry completely, from stallion owners, exhibitors, breeders, and now mare owners, right? And then people that own any mare, really. It could be a big-time producer, or it could be a mare that you're just starting with and has got its first couple babies and is a derby horse. This just kind of continues with our vision of expanding the platform and supporting the entire industry, getting everyone involved. So we put it together. We, once again, kind of trying to keep affordable, but yet grow a purse that was substantial enough that people would want to participate and could justify participating in. And that's what we came up with. People can nominate their mares. We make absolutely no profit off the mare program. It's just it's an addition to the program. People pay in, that money goes straight to the pot, and then that's how it grows. So with each new mare, the money grows a little bit more, and people can go run for it and can add produce to their mares, and they could add lifetime earnings to their foals and their foals that they bred. It's just a cool, neat new industry, and it celebrates really the backbone of our whole industry, these mares.
Right, which is the mares. But so talk a little bit more on the specifics. So a mare owner pays a fee to nominate the mare.
Yep.
And then that fee is going into a side purse. So the result of the foal, how well the foal performs, then gets a check to the mare owner out of that pot?
Yeah, so it runs with our derby. It's an addition, so it runs concurrent. It's in addition to, and people pay their mares in. So Wimpy's little chick is paid in, for instance. All of her foals that are derby aged are now eligible to compete for that additional side pot of money for no entry fee. There's no entry fee. So our Chasey could pay her in, and we actually are allowing nominators to pay in. So if someone passes on the opportunity to pay in their own mare, someone else can step up and nominate that mare. But you'd pay in that fee. All the babies are entered into that side concurrent class for free, and then they run and it's placed. And the way it pays out is right now the rider earns 60% of the money that's won, and the mare owner or nominator wins 40% of it. So it's a custom payback schedule. We split it, and NRHA got behind it, and some big time players in the industry too. Choyan Ranch jumped on too. John Tagg called us up, and he sponsored us, and he's putting all his mares in. So it's really a great thing. His support means a lot. Yeah, his support means a lot. It adds validity to it, and you could see John's a pretty cool guy, and he's got a lot of good ideas and a lot of good thoughts, and I've talked to him a bunch about
a lot
this
of good
program.
mares.
And a lot of good mares. And I've talked to him a bunch about this, and getting his feedback, and asking hard questions, makes David and I kind of go back and look at it. And this is our first year, right? So there are already adjustments that we want to make to it to kind of benefit the mare owners even more going forward. But we're giving it a go, and it's taken off. I think we've raised, Dave, we're at 57,000 at it now. So so we're doing.
Which will be this year's purse for Derby horses. And so the point is that, and what you're telling me is then the mare owners getting 40% of that purse paid back as a reward. Yeah. They're actually embracing that, and that's good for them, right? So that's what you're saying. And so, okay, right on. So, keep us informed.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a phenomenal idea. It's a copycat league. I'm sure you're going to see it's such a fantastic idea. There's going to be more of it. Come on. I'm laughing because I'm sitting here thinking about this. I grew up in this business, and my father just, passed a couple of years ago. He was 100 years old, and he always used to say a couple things. And, of course, times have changed, but you can take it with a grain of salt. But he said, you realize your stud's a good horse about the time he's too old. That was the number one thing he said. And he said you could breed a good mare to a rabbit, and she'd have a good colt.
Good colt. Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? It didn't matter. And the mare power is, I mean, this is the stuff that's bringing, the attention to people that, she counts just as much, if not more than that stud horse does. But anyway, it's what a great idea. And it's going to go like wildfire. It's fantastic.
Yep. Well,
we're really.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, we've been super excited about it. It took 2 years of talking before, this was all I said. I want to do something for the mares. And then Travis came up with how to do it. I just said, we need to do something. We need to include the mare owners. They're left out. And finally he figured it out. It took him long enough, but he got it. And at least a good start, right?
It must be that New York City influence takes a little longer. That's all.
Yeah, there you go.
I think I've been in New York City once, but it's it's hard. When you're building a new program, the industry is getting. There's a lot of conversations about industry getting priced out of programs. And that's the reality of it. And we want to give people access to it, but not make it crazy expensive and just make it an elitist program. We want to make it for everybody. And it's really neat. I saw about 5 or 6 mares just in my area buy into it, and they're sending their horses down there to go compete. And it's kind of cool to see that. And I think like I said, there's a few tweaks that we'd like to make to really better support the mare owners. But we're heading in the right direction,
Right. Well, I think it's very cool because there's several factors in here, but one, mares can. I always had this question, like I go back, Jody and I, we go back, a while, and when you talk to people, it's the same question. If we would have been talking to Jody's dad 30 years ago, and the difference between, here's the big statement that has truly changed. Studs' influence to the genetic pool and volume pool of horses versus mares' influence, which is, it's 30-1, if not 50-1. Even in the days when you're doing live cover, now you got science is very involved and all the rest of that, but you can now have mares, and there's actually published stuff on that. The point is, you got a Derby that's for 4 to 7 year olds, and you got mares that can be having multiple foals per year, which is all cool stuff. And now that makes your program all the more valuable because the likelihood of that mare having an aged horse out there showing is very high. That's a different phenomena of what's going on in the industry than when Jody and I were younger.
Yeah.
Me and Travis weren't even around then when y'all were young.
Thanks a lot for reminding us of that.
Whatever that was, I don't know.
Yeah, right. There's a good one, David. We'll figure out a way to get you back on that one. Maybe when we see you here next week at the horse show. But all right, no, it's all good. So yeah, trust me. If I always tell people, like I said, if you don't like getting old, you're going to be miserable. So I got no issue with it. Believe me. I'm just glad to be watching guys like you taking this thing over, because it's really phenomenal. And I love your thought process. So it's good. And here's one, and I'm gonna add a little bit to it, and just food for thought. And it doesn't have to be an instant answer. You can think about it or whatever. But how can we offer big money purses? We keep the cost down to attract new players in our industry. You guys think about this all the time. The NRHA Siren Dam program was a leading industry program. The cost to play was low. It was easy. It was very successful. And, this has changed. Cost did nothing but increase. The program got more complex, expensive. The value to the owner and buyer went down. The choices by the breeders may have gone elsewhere. So, there's an example that's already happened. Do you guys see that happening in the future to you guys? Are you trying to be careful? I mean, it's so hard. Like you said, there's no, David, you want to have a business plan. Travis, you're trying to figure out solutions to what people want. How do we avoid that happening again? I guess is a question that I would ask you. How do we keep the purses maybe where people are attracted to them, and those top 40 or top 20 riders come in and bring their non-pros, but still keep the cost down low enough to make it work?
Well, I'll give you the big picture answer, and then Travis has to figure out how we do it. But number one, we can't ever get too big for our britches. And we've got to be true to the foundation of the industry, which is the small guy. And if you take care of your foundation, your footings, your dirt work, all the stuff that's under the building, it seems like the rest of it seems to go okay in my world. And if that's there, then the purses seem to grow with it, and then the level 4 riders show up and everybody's happy. Travis has to come up with the details of how we do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're recently, and I'm not going to name any specific programs or anything, but you're going to see, you saw programs, pretty big programs, increase their prices to keep pace with the industry, right? To keep pace with putting those big numbers up to be able to do that. And a real easy answer, the easy answer, in my opinion, is say, yeah, up the enrollment number and get more money when they pay in. But we don't believe in that, and we're not going to. We don't want to up our enrollments. What we believe in is that if we stay true to what we're doing, David and I work our tails off on this. We really do, and we don't make. We don't make profit, right? Profit's not a bad thing, but we're not making profit off of this. Neither one of us needs to be doing this, but we do it because it's our passion. And we believe that if we stay true to what we believe is right and what we think is best for the industry, that people are going to continuously participate and support because they see what we're doing. They see our nose to the grindstone. They see us working hard. They see us trying to offer the very best product that we can offer for them for minimal investment. I genuinely believe that people are going to continue to support the program and us not having to increase the enrollment number or the buy-in, right? The enrollment cost, the fee, because if we stay true to that, people are going to keep coming. I genuinely believe that. And to that point, we do need sponsors. We need support from sponsors. And I think sponsors see that and they see what we're doing and they have bought in. We have some tremendous sponsors. 100X is a big sponsor. Leonard Truck and Trailers, Clint Leonard in Ohio, he's a huge sponsor for us. David McGee himself, he's one of our sponsors. Markel sponsors us. Wozone, SC Online Sales. We have a lot of people that are coming to us. Toyon now, right? They're approaching us because they see what we're doing and they're buying into it. And if we stay true to what we believe is right, I genuinely believe that we will continue to be able to grow without having to jeopardize that initial best bang for your buck. For $150 right now, if our numbers stay the same, I think you're running for like 1.4 million in your horse's lifetime if you want to go compete at our events all those years, right? Your futurity and your in the Derby years. I mean, come on, right? That's a great deal, and
you're saying $1 million statement right there. So my challenge to you guys will be, listen to you need to write that down and put it wherever you go every day and remind yourself to stay true to that, because then you are 100% correct, which would go back to my point about competition is actually good. The more there is of something, the better, and the more the consumer has a choice. And I've said this for a long time, date sanctioning in the horse show world is so archaic. And the point of the story is that our industry is growing. We fundamentally know that. But what we try to all do is hang on to the same stuff as opposed to allowing it to naturally grow. And that's what you're talking about, Travis, because is there a place for the average regional, whatever that is, to play this game at a different economic level than what all the promo wants to show at? And that answer is yes, if you have programs like yours. Because with what you're talking about, I mean, the economics are quite lucrative. You take $57,000 in a mare purse, you know, that's $20,000 or $25,000 to whoever's going to win that. Well, guess what? That's good stuff, right?
Yeah, and you know, it makes us feel like we're on the right path when you've got a John Tag, Toyon, putting all of his mares in and saying he'll be with us for 3 years. Yep. You know, just that commitment to us right there, we're like, okay, we're on the right track. And then he's got ideas, he makes it better. Bob Santagata, the Run for the Million winner, he put 2 of his mares in. You know, people like that say, hey, you're doing good, we're with you. It gives us a little energy to keep working on it instead of saying, you know, because everybody ain't going to like everything you do, so you got to pick and choose what you listen to, you know. Right. So it makes you feel good when that works.
Yeah.
Well, I think those are great answers, and I'm going to go off the script here with 2 questions, and I'm going to. And Brian, it's good. You've heard these before, right? But it's like he's going to. It's like
these are trick questions, Travis. They're
right. Well, Travis, I'll direct the first one at you, and then David, I want you to answer the next one. But Travis, and think about this for a second, because don't answer me right away. But who has the biggest influence with you? Because you both are non-pro riders, so you know how this whole thing works. Do you think the trainers have the biggest influence? Is it the owners that have the biggest influence? Who are the ones, and just think about it for a second, who influences this business that you guys are involved in the most? Is it that owner? Is it the trainer? Is it the rider? Is it the client? Who do you think? And David, we talked earlier before we went on the air here about golf, and it's a sport that we like, and Brian and I both play it. We're not very good at it, but we like it. But the money in golf is nuts, and I cannot believe it. It's my fault because I keep turning the TV on to watch them. Professional athletes, right? But do you ever see? And this is, like I said, this is a business that was great for me, and I grew up in it. But I also I kind of call it a giant jackpot because we run it our own money. You know what I'm saying? We run it our own money. It's our own entry fees. It's our own stud fees. It's our own, everything is us. What is it going to take, or do you believe that we can get some of that outside sponsorship money into this event itself? Do you think that that's a possibility in the future, that we can attract someone not just by a breeder, but can we bring in Coors Light? Can we bring in like the PBR is doing, is it because they have a bigger television audience? Something in addition to purse money besides just us in our 15 to 20,000 people that are raising and riding and training reining horses. So anyway, that's
Travis is still thinking, so I can answer that now.
Go ahead,
only
David,
because
okay.
My part anyway. Only because me and Brian have talked about that not less than 20 hours over the last 2 years.
Okay.
And we've had different strategies that we've discussed amongst each other. One, the reason golf, as you used as an example, is so accessible to people is everybody imagines a country club being expensive, but you can go rent some clubs and go to the public course, and for $20 you can start playing golf, and then it just attacks you and grows from there, kind of like this horse thing does. But when you look at those sports, the one thing they all have in common is the TV. Everybody's watching them on TV. That's where the sales comes from. That's why Coors Light or Miller Lite, let's go with Miller Lite. That's why they want to be on there. Everybody's watching them. It's a good ad platform for them. With the Yellowstone deal, the Run for the Million, and all of those things going on, I think they're setting that foundation for that to happen. Who's going to be the first to create an event that takes it to the next level beyond what they're doing now and actually gets it on ABC, CBS, or NBC, at 6 o'clock on Sunday night instead of football? I don't know if we'll live long enough to see that, Jody, but the sport is fun enough to watch that I think it belongs in the house, and I think when you get it there, people will turn it on just like they do golf and football and basketball and everything else. I mean, those guys, if you watch them perform at the level they did last night in these major events, I mean, that's exciting. But first you got to educate them. There's a lot of golf experts. Even if we can't hit the golf ball, we can tell you all about it. Same for basketball and football. So, there's a lot of steps, I think, to make that happen.
That's
great.
Travis. Yeah. Well done. Travis,
Yeah,
how about
answer.
yours?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to have an answer that you're going to be as thrilled with, but, so the premise of our program is that everyone has a little skin in the game. That's what makes it great. Not one person has more than another. So what I'm going to say is it starts with our breeders, but just as well as it starts with our mare owners and our stallion owners. We have outstanding participation from our stallion owners. I think 176 stallions last year participated in our program. They donated a breeding. We auction off those breedings. That raises a good chunk of our change that we can pay out. By participating and donating a breeding, that nominates them into the program. By doing that, all the breeders can access our program. So without the breeders kind of calling up the stallion owners saying, hey, let's do this, I want to participate, then we get actually more stallion owners that way. And now the mare part of it, it's everyone has a little skin in the game, one group being more influential than another. Tough to say. Stallions are louder, right? They're advertising. They're out there. They're at the stallion stations. They're everywhere at all the events. They're the louder ones. They're the ones that are more visible. But if it wasn't for the breeders that breed 2 or 3 mares a year and pay into this program and other programs like it, we wouldn't have a program. We wouldn't have a program with the stallions. We wouldn't have a program with the breeders. And that's just the simple. It's a partnership. That's our goal, is to foster a mutually beneficial partnership in the industry. Mare owners, breeders, exhibitors. Our program, and then the exhibitors. Historically, we put a lot of money in the lower levels, lower level 1, level 2, level 3. And our level 4 is always the most, but we have a lot of money in our level 1, level 2. You win a lot of money there. And our entry fees are historically lower than any other. For the amount of for the ratio of added money to entry fee, we're low. And we do that because we want those exhibitors there. So without the exhibitors, without the stallion owners, without the mare owners, we have nothing. And it's really us. We're just fostering that relationship. That's our goal. That's all we do. And we kind of build it and hope they come. So I don't know if that's the answer you wanted, but they're not one is more influential. And even our sponsors are tremendous. They give us support without any strings attached, and that's a true statement. We have really, really great people that have backed us. So everyone's in it. Everyone's putting a little in.
I think that's a phenomenal program that will reach across the entire industry and downplays the primary influence. Good for you. Keep it up. Yes. My question is going to be, which leads on Jody's, and what do you hear from the exhibitors? Is there a big difference in the influence and the purse building between the non-pros and the pros?
David, you want to jump on that one?
I think
is this part B of mine? Brian, can you ask that question again? Let me think.
That's a great stall tactic. I do that too when I don't know the answer.
Is this one of those bathroom break times, drag time? Right?
Yeah, we don't know the answer to that.
I don't know
there's an okay answer.
Well, and maybe there's not. I'm just trying to get your sense on the amount of how much voice, you made the simple reference of the stallion owners are louder. Got it. Yes, because that's part of the business model, and they've got to attract all those mares. If you got a stud that's going to breed 100 to 200 horses, you got to be pretty active. But my question is the difference. Hang on, because it's the non-pro. And last night on the Run for the Million, they actually talked about a pro non-pro. And this is one of my pet peeves in the industry. And hang on, my question is there louder noise coming from the pros relative to your program or the non-pros relative to your program? And it's not that one's better than the other, it's just who's louder. Is it the non-pros are needing more stuff, or is it the pros needing more stuff, or are they both needing more stuff? And part of this goes into the 4 levels. And I've been a big proponent of this, and the numbers say this. Let me just say this, because this is what I'm going to tell you. I would tell you the sport of reining does not need 4 levels in our aged events. It actually needs 3. Period. That's what the numbers say. So when you're putting on an event and you're putting a program together and you're distributing purse money accordingly, you could build significant purses for a level 1 and 2 that would have a different but significant purse for level 4, and that would be a completely different kind of aged event than what we're seeing today. So that's where my question was coming from, which is on the back of what Jody was asking as far as who's the loudest in our industry. So mine's specific between the pros and the non-pros. Do you hear more or less from one or the other?
I think there are certain individuals that pick up the phone and call a lot more, right, from across the country. There just are, right, and that have a bigger opinion than others. And I don't know that it's a major difference. We have gotten some pushback for the changes that we've made throughout the years, and with all changes you're going to. But I would say it's pretty even between the open and the non-pros. But honestly, guys, it's for the few people that are, not incredibly happy with everything. I field so many positive phone calls. How do I get involved? What can I do? What can I do for you? I mean, there are trainers that reach out ahead of the events. What can we sponsor? What can we do to help you guys continue to do what you do, right? And then we have non-pros and small breeders that are just very excited. So I think it's been a lot more positive than negative. And in terms of loudness there really isn't a whole lot of that, Brian. Like there's not a whole lot of people trying to influence what we're doing, and what we're doing is real simple. We're just supporting the industry, and we're not cutting ourselves massive checks out of this. We're putting it all back into the program. So how can you not like what we're, what is there to push against? You know what I mean?
I do, but what we've heard a lot in our time, but more so in the last 10 to 15 years, is a single push. On the pro side, the young and upcoming pros have to foot the bill for the top guys. They take it. The young guys are footing the bill. On the non-pro side, I've been a strong advocate for a long time, because the single inhibitor to the non-pro competition has been the dominance of the pro-non-pro. I'm using just generic terms, and that one, my head doesn't work well with that, but it's real. And so would more non-pros play the game of reining and enjoy getting a prize check reward? Absolutely. You got to do what you guys are doing. Keep costs down, and when the reward becomes somewhat significant, and they're just thrilled by it. But it's the dominance of it. So, when you know that 10 or 15 people are going to dominate that purse, it changes decisions. I'm talking about it on a yearly basis and how we play the game. So that's all. And so I'll leave it at that, because that's been commonly talked about.
I could actually add a little bit, because you got me thinking as you were just explaining that. But, there's a conversation that I've had a lot, especially with the open riders, where historically we put a lot of money in our level 1 comparatively to the industry. And, we do that because when you're paying in babies in as weanlings, you don't know if that thing's a level 4 or level 1 horse. You just don't know. But we want to make sure it's worth it to you, so that if it becomes a level 2 horse, you can go compete and you have a chance of making some money, right? So that's why we do that. the pushback that I've received from open riders who are lower level, younger and newer open riders who at one end say they don't want to always support those higher level 4 guys and pay those massive entries just for all the money to go to the top. They want that money, but it also could be career damaging if they win too much money in that lower level. And right, I've heard this. I'm not kidding you. And it bumps them up to the level 4, level 3, where now people could potentially be pulling out of their barn because they don't have the level 4 horse. Right? Those are conversations that I've had with people, and I guess ultimately, we're trying to make it as fair as possible. You're paying your baby in, you need to have money there to compete for, no matter what level you are at. And honestly, for the pros that I've talked to about that, the younger pros, right, my age guys who are 5-10 years into the industry, they're, you got to manage that. I think, it's hopefully they have good clients that are sticking with them, and, you just got to manage it. You got to keep track of your earnings. You got to see where you're at, and you got to watch it really close, and you got a career plan, right?
Right. Well, it goes, and there's some of those things that are not in your control anyways, because one is an industry. How do we measure leveling eligibility? And again, this is my view, is archaic. It's not serving the industry well, because is an average the best way to do it? Is money earned necessarily the best way to do it? I think that there are alternative ways that you could modernize that to keep, because what everybody wants is a fair playing field. And Jody talks about this a lot, because once on the pro side, once the skill levels get to somewhat in a competitive space, it's about horsepower. And horsepower and access to horsepower comes and goes over time. So I think as a sport, there are new ways to address that, and what we as an industry have been doing is the same stuff. That's the bottom line to it. And you guys just got to keep your program moving with what you're committed to, which is keeping affordability down and giving a platform for many to play. So good for you.
Yeah, but what you just said, Brian, Brian, goes right back to Jody's question that he asked us before, is he asked me before anyway, do we see this becoming like golf? Okay. Until we quit having to talk about the things that you just talked about, and they're very good things to talk about, how can you ever expect to turn things into an event that the public wants to watch when we can't quite figure out how to level ourselves and get the purses right? There's two clear leagues in most every major sport. There's the big league and the little league, or the minor league, or whatever they call it. And your whole life, you start out at kindergarten, you work up till you get to be in high school and college if you're really good, and then they have 2 leagues of pros. Well, in our sport, anybody can play, which is great, but the piece that people want to watch on TV are the really, really good guys. They don't want to see me and Travis, right? So leveling all of this stuff out and organize it in a way that it can grow, I think, is way beyond me and Travis's program. We gotta keep our stuff simple and affordable and try to best serve the industry that we have in front of us. But somebody smarter than us needs to figure out how to do all those things you just said. I don't know who that is.
No, those are great answers, guys, and it kind of goes on to the next question that I was going to ask you, because, like I said, we always run way over time because it gets so interesting, and that the way that you're attacking this thing is perfect. And Brian and we've always said that this business is self-serving, right? Everybody wants what's best for themselves, and even if you go into golf and there's so much money available there, all of a sudden we got 2 leagues and we're going to split, and we got there's so much dissension, and now it's no different than the horse business. It's been that way forever, but you guys I don't think you have to worry about that. I think what you're doing is you're serving a part of the industry that is telling you from a number standpoint that this is what we want. This is what we want. We want you guys. So, don't change it. You're going to change because you're going to grow, but I'm just saying, what a fantastic program. And let me bump that up just a little bit, because we've answered some of this question already, but the Derby, it's going to be at the new 100X this week in Tulsa. in your North American Reining Stakes. Futurity is going to be the November 2nd through the 5th in Ohio at the Garwood Arena. So your goals for the program, and you're offering this, program, and you've kind of already answered it, but I mean, specifically, do you have any goals, like say in the next 2 years for your Derby and your Futurity that you've thought about?
Continue to respond to the community and grow appropriately. No, I mean, I don't know that we can project at this point in time. We're just not. We've talked. David and I mean, we'd like to double our Futurity added money next year, and we would, and that is going to be a goal, and it's going to be something that we're going to be working on, and but we're going to do it in the best way that we know possible, and then just we got to go where we're needed and do the best that we can and stay true to ourselves.
And the mayor power thing, we're going to work on that a lot.
I think that's a phenomenal. Good for you guys. I congratulate you a lot because you're first in the industry to finally do something like that. Good for you. I'll bring us home. Is there anything that we haven't touched on? We could do this forever. Talking about the industry and the rest, but you got a program that's now got a solid foundation. You got numbers behind you. You've got all sides because you're hitting the stallion owners. You got the mares now involved. You got the exhibitors. You're tending to both the non-pro and the pro side in the aged events. Good for you guys. I can't wait if you would stay in touch with us because kind of looking at some of those numbers over time and what does that look like. Also, some of those rewards and how you divvy it up. I have a high interest on the mare side, so we'll stay in touch because we'd love to help kind of promote that a little bit into the future. But I can't thank you guys enough on taking the time out of your day, also your passion for the industry and all of the creativity that you're doing. So for the audience, they can get to you guys. Your website is all one word, North American Reining Stakes, plural stakes, NorthAmericanReiningstakes.com. And they can get to you too and or your staff that run the North American program. So your website's up, it's robust, seen it many times, and so we want that to know. We'll put the links in when we publish as well.
Thank you.
And again, so we really appreciate it. So
we appreciate this
for having
opportunity.
us.
Yeah.
And all the hard questions.
Well, it's, we've had a lot of fun, with Travis and David. I'm going to see you here in a couple of days because, like I said, I live 100 miles away, so you have a little farther to travel than I do to get to Tulsa. But we wish you the best. You're creative, and the industry is just they need you, and your numbers say that they need you because people are jumping into it with both feet, and Brian and I completely agree, and we'd like to do a follow-up show with this, I'm sure. Just after this show's over with, and get you guys into this thing for another year. And like I said, David, you and Brian, it sounds like you stay in pretty close contact all the time anyway. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but anyway, Travis, you just have to deal with that as best you can.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys so much. It's truly been my pleasure to have you. I've enjoyed the heck out of this show. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Well, thank you both. Go to cowboyoffice.com, drop your email in. Horses are good for people, and until next time, enjoy the ride.
Stay in the middle, guys.
Thank you so much for riding along with us today. Sign up at cowboyoffice.com to be the first to know about topics affecting the industry we love so much. You can reach out to us with topics you care about by finding us on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and all podcast platforms. And remember, share this episode with someone that may enjoy it, because the more we can share our horses with others, the better our world will be.